and a waterproof rain suit. Southeast weather scoffed at water-resistant. An oilcloth ball cap and tall rubber extra-tough boots, often called Juneau sneakers, kept him relatively dry during the long hours he spent standing over the dig. The big 953 Caterpillar track crawler belched and clanked, working steadily along the mountain. Its massive steel bucket swung back and forth overhead, chewing steadily through blueberry brush, moss, and a layer of deep brown earth. Almost black with age and tannin from the surrounding vegetation, a series of logs were arranged side by side on the ground, close together, like the walls of an old fort that had fallen over. It was sad, in a way, to see the old corduroy road torn up, a piece of history gone. But it was not a piece of that history Merkuliev was paid to care about. He breathed in the chilly, ionized scent of wet dirt and decaying wood. The rough-cut logs had been laid down over a century before during the heyday of gold mining in the region. They formed a road to keep the wagons and ore carts out of the ever-present muck. Had there been no old road, the bosses would never have gotten the permits to build a new one. The Tongass National Forest was designated roadless. Period. Fortunately for old man Grimson, the Valkyrie's owner, he'd located this easement to the old mine adit. That meant he wasn't building a new road. He was merely improving one that had been constructed in 1904 to carry ore out of the mine a half-mile farther up the valley. Those miners had tunneled in 200 yards and quit, not knowing they were a scant 11 feet from a rich vein of gold-bearing quartz. Harold Grimson had found it, and now he wanted to punch a hole through to the vein. But first, he had to rebuild the road. Core samples projected an ounce of gold for every 6 barrels of ore they hauled out of the mountain. In the mining world, that was a whole lot of gold. They were almost there. It had been the natural place to build a road in the early 1900s, when few cared about rolling roughshod over sacred native sites. Unfortunately for Valkyrie number 3, these last 300 yards folded back and forth in a series of cliffs and crags, the perfect spot for a burial ground. The 28-year-old archaeologist focused on bones and his music, when he should have been worried about the heavy backhoe bucket swinging back and forth on the boom over his head. Dean Schimmel, a laborer in tattered Frog Togs rain gear that looked like he'd found them wadded up in the trunk of an abandoned car, perched on a crumbling hummock of mossy earth a few feet up the valley. As ever, he leaned on a shovel, looking as spindly as the shovel's handle and extremely glum. He was supposed to act as safety, to keep an eye on Merkuliev, make sure he didn't get himself brained by the swinging backhoe bucket. But Dean Schimmel was just as likely to stare at a passing raven or puff on his cigarette and watch a shuffling porcupine. He was probably a decent enough guy, though he put far too much stock in what Dallas Childers had to say. That guy was bad news. Merkuliev could feel it. Childers, the scowling dude behind the controls of the bright yellow beast, was supposed to stay to the existing road. Instead, he used it as a vague guideline, taking bites of moist earth and rock the size of lazy-boy recliners out of the mountain at every other turn. Merkuliev didn't try to stop him. Violations of U.S. Forest Service regulations weren't his problem, unless they involved old bones or native settlements. The mine had a strict no-gun policy, but Childers said he'd seen a brown bear a couple of weeks back, so the foreman let him carry a big Glock on a chest rig over his Carhartt overalls. He practiced with it, too, every day out on the old tailings by the ocean. He used oil cans for